Hi everybody, and welcome to English 101. In this episode of Punctuated, we're going to be talking about the period or full stop as it's known in British English. The period is a single dot placed at the bottom of the line of text. The period is used to indicate when a complete sentence has ended. This is different from saying that the period is used to indicate when a complete thought ends. In the most basic sense, though, a sentence is a complete thought, and the period indicates to the reader that that thought's completed. Now, all that said, you can also end a complete thought in some settings with a semicolon or a colon, and in later videos that talk about those pieces of punctuation, we'll look at how to use the semicolon and the colon to end a complete thought. So let's take a look at a basic sentence, and we'll see if we can figure out where the period goes. This is a basic sentence. It is. The period, as you probably figured out, goes right here at the end to indicate that our basic sentence is complete. Periods end sentences. Period. But a period's use isn't limited to ending a sentence. They have a few other functions that they serve in written English, and let's see what those are. Periods can also be used to end an abbreviation, to indicate that an abbreviation has been used, for instance. Let's take a look at two identical abbreviations, sort of. One has a period and one doesn't. We'll talk about what the two different abbreviations mean. In typical American English, if there is no period at the end of an abbreviation, it means that the last letter in the abbreviation is the same as the last letter of the word. So you've probably figured out what these two abbreviations mean already. These are short for drive and doctor. So for instance, the abbreviation for drive is to shorten it from meaning a type of road, like Elm Drive if you grew up in the suburbs and were surrounded by other white people, where all the streets were named after trees that they cut down to put your houses up. Or DR for doctor, as in Doctor Who, if you like good TV. This is a way to use a period, or to not use a period, to indicate to your reader what your abbreviation is. And if your abbreviation ends with a different letter, it gets a period. If your abbreviation ends in the same letter as your word, it does not get a period. A period is not an ellipsis. An ellipsis is also not three periods. If you know what an ellipsis is, it looks like this. 3 periods in a row on the bottom of a line. Ellipses are a different type of punctuation, and there's going to be a later video on ellipses to talk about how they're used. They use 3 periods, but they are not 3 periods, and periods are not ellipses. I just wanted to clarify that, because I know a lot of people are confused when they see an ellipsis as to what it is and why it's 3 periods. There are some very nuanced rules for periods if you're doing different types of writing, things like how they go in and around parentheses, how they're used in citations. And as we get to later videos that look at more complex parts of writing, we'll talk about some of the specific rules about period use. For instance, when we talk about in the parentheses video, we'll talk about how to use periods in and around parentheses. And when we talk about in the future about how to do different types of citation, we'll talk about how the periods are used both in the text for citation and then again in the bibliography. There are some specific rules for that. There are a number of ways people use periods incorrectly. For instance, like I said, they're not an ellipsis. Periods cannot be used to indicate a pause, sometimes called a caesura in types of writing. They can also not do the job of a comma. Periods have a different function. They don't indicate pauses in thought. They don't indicate spaces. They end things. They don't indicate a moment's time between two things. The period's primary job is to end sentences and videos, period.